Welcome to the Genius Talk podcast. I'm your host Atul Raj from the bestemailmarketer.com, and today we have Bill Gates with us. Bill, thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, pleasure being with you, Atul. And in case anybody misread or understood, it's not Bill Gates. It's Bill Cates with a C. I like to say that I missed it by one letter and a few dollars. And while I may not have the billions of dollars that Mr. Gates has, perhaps I can help everybody here make a few more.
Yeah, so you're known for a referral coach. So can you talk about that? Like how did that happen?
Yeah, so for the last 34 years, I've been working in financial services mostly, helping financial advisors serve their clients better, acquire more clients, bring in billions of dollars to help manage. And my focus has been on the referral process. How do you get more referrals? How do you become more referable, first of all, so people will talk about you? And if you want to ask, they'll be open to it. How to ask for referrals, introductions, and how to get connected, how to get introduced. So that, for 34 years, that's what I've been focused on. Still do that. And then I'm working on some new things as well.
Okay, so I'm guessing the first step for getting a referral is becoming super good at what they're doing.
Yeah, you have to be good at what you do, clearly. Now, one barometer of being referable, or another way to say it is being remarkable, worthy of remark. One barometer of that is that you're getting unsolicited referrals. So everyone, you, me, everyone listening, should be getting some unsolicited referrals because that shows that at least some people believe your values worth sharing. They're taking it upon themselves to share with others. And now, if you're not getting many unsolicited referrals, or the ones you're getting aren't very good, they're not to the right people, then there's some work to be done there. Probably deepening your relationships with your clients, staying in touch better, maybe providing more value. I've had people come to me, Atul, and say, "My clients love me, but I'm not getting many referrals." And so I say, all right, well, let's go back to that my clients love me part.
Mhm.
Because what we've learned is where clients may be satisfied and they stay with you, it's another level of engagement to get them talking about you to others. And so there's sometimes some work to be done there to be referable.
Hmm. Okay, like you know what? I'm getting a lot of referral, but I don't know why is that happening.
So you say you're getting a lot and you're not sure why. Well, obviously people think your value is worth sharing. First of all, one of the things I ask business owners and financial advisors, everyone I work with,
Uh-huh.
do you believe your value is worth sharing? Do you believe in your value? That usually shows up and helps a little bit. I suspect you do believe in your value. People get that. But if you're doing a great job, then people will talk about you. Now, I see a difference between a referral and an introduction and word of mouth. So there are some businesses that thrive on word of mouth, restaurants, movies,
Uh-huh.
books. You want people to be talking about to other people. But other businesses, that's not always enough because just because someone hears about you doesn't mean they're necessarily going to reach back to you and connect with you and learn what you
Uh-huh.
do and work with you. So that's why I like to focus on introductions. And for most people listening to this, that's where introduction is probably pretty important, not just the talking about us, but the word of mouth. Now, here's one important question to ask that you can ask if you're getting referrals without asking. You want to talk to your clients about that. You talk to George about me. You talk to so and so about me. Thank you. I'm curious. What did you say? Learn what your clients are saying about you that creates these referrals. And then whenever you get a new client or even a prospect from a referral or introduction from someone, what did they say about me? I'm curious how they described what I did. What did they say that triggered your interest in what I do? And so being curious about the process, how it worked, what people are saying about you and learning about you helps you
Uh-huh.
do more of that, right? Then you
Uh-huh.
learn from that process. So hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah. And yeah, you have a referral system, right? You're talking about that. It's mentioned on your website. So
Yes.
can you walk us through the process? Like how does
Yeah,
that work?
it's really quite simple. There's first of all there's kind of two systems. I'll give you both real quick. The first one is what I call the relationship marketing system. And this is essentially helping businesses build a business at the speed of relationships. Not all businesses, but most businesses, when you look at who your best clients are and best customers are, usually they came to you through some sort of a relationship, an introduction from a current client or an influencer or
Mm-hmm.
some event you may be put on, but somehow there's a human relationship connection going on. So if that's true for your business, then you want to accentuate that, right? You want to build a business based on how people want to meet you,
Mm-hmm.
which is an introduction. All right. So I have what I call the 3 R's of relationship marketing very quickly. The first one is relevance. I wrote a book called Radical Relevance, and that's all about your messaging, making sure that your message is relevant to people, that it resonates with them. If it's not relevant, you'll be ignored, right? So you got to have good messaging.
Mm-hmm.
The second R is reputation, building a reputation for yourself so that your business isn't based just on prospecting and reaching and all of that activity, which can be
Mm-hmm.
a grind sometimes. But you start to build a reputation and people start to come to you because of that reputation. That usually happens more easily when you're very, very clear on your target market and your persona or your avatar, who are your best clients, and then you work on that. So that's the second R. The third R is referrals. And the interesting thing is that they all talk to each other. So, like, if you have a very clear target market, your messaging is going to be more relevant to those people. If you get referred to someone, introduced to someone, you're automatically more relevant to them and they're going to be more likely to pay attention. So, all of these 3 R's talk to each other. And then, very quickly, within the referral side, there's 3 more. So the first one is being more referable. That's client engagement. We kind of mentioned that already.
Mm-hmm.
Having great relationships with your clients, great engagement, great value delivered. Then the next one is leverage, being appropriately proactive. How do we ask? How do we promote without looking like, the cheesy, creepy referral guy? Nobody wants to look like that. So, yeah, there are some appropriate ways to ask. And then as I alluded to earlier, getting introduced, getting connected. And when you get connected in a good way with your new prospect, then the wheel keeps spinning. You'll create better engagement, you'll ask better, you'll get connected, and it really creates a perpetual flow of good clients through that system.
Okay, so when you said like way to asking for referrals, so what's the wrong way and what is the right way?
Well, the worst way is to not ask at all, I suppose. There's a couple other things. First of all, you want to make the process, the asking, not so much about you, but about your value and bringing that value to other people, paying it forward to others. So
Mm-hmm.
you believe your value is worth sharing.
Yeah, yeah.
Your clients are experiencing your value. So you're making the request about that. It's not about how you're trying to build your business and all of that. So it's about that. Right? So that's one of the things to think about. Another mistake that people make is that when they ask for referrals, they throw open kind of the whole universe. They say, "Can you think of anyone else who should know about the work we do?" Or who can you think of that might benefit from the work? Now that's better than nothing, but you think if you throw it up into the whole universe, they're certainly going to think of somebody. But usually the reverse happens. They usually draw a blank. They don't think of anybody, and the conversation doesn't go any further. So I always teach to be as specific as possible when you're asking for referrals or introductions. If you know some specific people they know, look to get introduced to those specific people. Or there could be some categories of, for every business, there are these categories, these trigger events. So, for example, in financial services, if someone has what they call money in motion, there's an inheritance or they sell a piece of property, that's a trigger event. Or they have a child or they get married, right? These are the things that will trigger someone to think about working with a financial advisor. Every industry has those types of events. And so come to the conversation with those. You came to me because this was happening for you. This was happening in your business. Let's see if there's anyone else you can think of that is experiencing the same challenge that you had than when you came to me. So we're narrowing the focus. The goal here is trying to get people to visualize others in their mind's eye. Can I visualize that friend, that family member, that colleague, that business associate? And if we help them visualize someone, then they're more likely to speak it out to us. But if we're very general and say, "Can you think of anyone who should know about what we do?" Usually they don't think of anyone. Sometimes they do, but usually not. So that's kind of the weakest way to ask.
And like your book, The Hidden Heist.
Yes.
So it's recently launched, right? So can you talk about that?
Yeah, yeah. The Hidden Heist is my latest book, and thank you for asking. Where all my other books have been very straightforward, how to, right? The language of referrals, beyond referrals. They're typical, nonfiction how to books. The Hidden Heist is what's known as a parable book. So it's a story, and it's a story about money beliefs. The hidden heist are our limiting beliefs, mistaken assumptions, lack of knowledge around how money really works. And so that robs ourselves of our future wealth because we have those limiting beliefs, mistaken assumptions. So the book is a fun read. It takes place in a bank robbery where there's, money, but the bank robbers are kind of bumbly. They're not very good at what they're doing. So while these bumbly bank robbers trying to figure out how to get out of this mess they've created, the hostages are in the vault and there's a financial advisor and they're talking about money beliefs, money assumptions, and some basic strategies around accumulating wealth and creating more wealth for yourself. We actually have a guide. It's a free guide. Your listeners can go get it. It's called theordinarymillionaire.com, and it lays out how virtually anyone can become a millionaire if they use some of the basic principles of how money works. And then the book itself is at thehiddenheist.com. And so I believe that people who read the book, in fact, are telling me this, that they become more aware of their own self-talk, their
Mhm.
own story around money and where it could use some work. They learn a little bit better about how money works so they can make it work for them. And a lot of folks are buying this book as gifts to others, the sharing the wealth, giving the gift of wealth to others. I'm, in fact, my personal trainer, the guy that works me out every day. I'm actually going to be working out with him a little bit shortly after we record this. He has three children, young adult children. He bought 3 copies of The Hidden Heist for his children to make sure they get educated on how money works, beliefs, and just the technical side of money. So yeah, that's The Hidden Heist. Thanks for asking.
Hmm. You know what? I just got a referral question.
Yes.
When is the right time to ask for a referral? And
Yeah.
for a referral from someone who is not your client.
Okay. So let's cover both. And there's a little bit of overlap. So the best time, here's a little formula to think about. You're becoming referable. You're earning the right to ask, perhaps, when value has been delivered and value has been recognized. So you've provided value, you've taught them something, your service, you've rendered your service. Could be any number of things where they see the value. Sometimes you can bring value to a prospect. They're not even a client yet, and they appreciate the conversation you're having. That can be value recognized. And so, how do we know value has been recognized? Two things. One is pay attention to that. Pay attention to all the things your prospects and clients say to you. I call them value recognizing statements. They thank you for the good work you do. They thank you for explaining how things work. They say, I always feel better after we talk. There's all kinds of ways clients will appreciate us for the work we do. So that's value recognized. So when you hear that, that's a time where you can either promote or ask for introductions. You could say, Great, I'm glad you're seeing the value. Please don't keep me a secret out there, or I'm never too busy to see if I can help others. Don't keep me a secret. That's a little line I've been, teaching for a long time. Or you can ask, you say, Great, I'm glad you see the value. And I was hoping we could put our heads together for a minute, see if we can identify a few folks that you think should at least be aware of the work we do. I actually have a couple ideas I'd like to run by us. Some people you've mentioned in previous meetings. So that's kind of when you can ask. I also teach you to do what I call value discussions, meaning maybe don't wait for someone to express value, but say, we've had a great meeting here today. Tell me the value you feel you've gotten, or we've been through a process to get to this point with you right now. Can you tell me the value you feel you've gotten from the process? So every business model is a little different, but depending on how much you interact with your clients or customers, you can check in and making sure they're feeling good about the work. So value again, value recognized. Now, the second part of your question: someone who's not a client. It's a little tougher, obviously, because they haven't experienced your value, but they have to at least kind of understand conceptually your value. They have to at least have a sense of the work you do. So if it's a prospect who's not ready to move forward,
Uh-huh.
but they like the conversation and you've gotten them thinking in some new ways and taught them a couple of things, but the timing isn't right and they want to think about it. Some value has been delivered and they might know other people who should at least know about this kind of conversation, should know about the type of work you do so that you can do it there. Usually, you want to wait for someone to experience more value. Now, sometimes you have influencers, right? Every industry has these influencers in financial services. For an advisor, it could be accountants, it could be attorneys. Every business has those types of folks. For me, as an author, speaker, consultant, it could be other consultants, other speakers, right? So the key there is for those people to really understand your business model, and you have to teach them. You have to say, look, this is the process we put our clients through. These are the questions we ask. This is the work we do. Here are some case studies. Here's what people are saying about the work that we do.
Uh-huh.
So if you're going to ask those people or you're going to expect them to introduce you, they've got to feel good about the value because creating introductions, it's a little risky. You never know
Yeah,
exactly
yeah.
what's going to happen. And so we got to remove that risk as much as we possibly can by helping them understand our value proposition.
Okay, and like here's what we are doing before. So we are
Please.
asking like that for who are not our clients. We are just something in this line. Do you know someone who are doing this? They have this, and maybe we can help them with this.
Yes.
And if you ended up working together, we will send you $500 as a thank you, so that you can treat yourself in a five-star restaurant.
Right.
Yeah.
So your formula is basically good, right? If anyone is going through this and they would like this, so it's kind of the problem or then the solution if if they want to build their business, if they want to get more whatever, uh, then you should talk to Atul, right? You should talk to Bill. You should that call to action should be there. So that's all good. Now the and by the way, that's not asking for referrals. That's what I call promoting, right?
Yeah.
So you're not really asking for introductions, but it still has its place. It's still good. Now, rewarding, paying for them, if you will, having a reward. That's going to vary a lot on the business. When you have in some businesses I've seen it work, other businesses I've seen it not work. First of all, you've got to be referable. So even if someone can make $500 or 1,000, by being an affiliate or being, representing you in some way, if they don't fully believe in your value, then it doesn't matter what the money is.
Mhm.
But in some cases, especially with other business owners, if they know that they can make a little money, the one
Mhm.
thing you got to be careful with that is one could say that it does weaken the recommendation a little bit. Because if I'm referring you to someone and
Mhm.
I'm getting $500 for that, right? Why am I referring? Am I referring because I want to help my friend and through the work you do, or am I doing it because I get $500? So I will disclose that if I'm ever
Mhm.
in a situation, I'll say, look, I joke about it. In the United States, you're probably too young to remember this, and they when someone opened a bank account, an account in the bank, they'd get a free toaster, right? So I make the joke. I say, yeah, if I recommend that tool, yeah, he'll send me a free toaster. So I just want to let you know that. But I really do recommend the work he does. He does great work for his clients. I've heard great things, yada, yada, right? So what you have to do is you have to work with your referral source. You have to work with that person to make sure that it's all very clear and above board and that it doesn't matter that you're making a little money. Yeah, you make a little money, but you wouldn't be doing it if you didn't believe in it. So, and sometimes you have to test. I mean, I've worked with some clients where they've given a little gift to their clients for giving a referral and it doesn't make a difference. It doesn't help. So this is
Mhm.
one of the things as a marketer, this you have to test it
Yeah.
and see if it actually makes the difference.
Yeah. Okay, so what advice do you have for someone who's starting out and wanting to build a referral based business?
So starting out in business or starting out with trying to get more referrals or
Yeah,
both?
starting out with trying to get more referrals.
Okay. All right. Good. Good. Yeah. So it's usually difficult for someone to go from not really asking at all to asking all the time. There's all kinds of mindset head trash going on. So I usually think of it in a few stages. So the first step would be to conduct more of what I mentioned earlier, these value discussions. So start getting in the habit at the end of your meetings with prospects and clients, say things like, we've covered a lot in today's meeting. I'm curious what stands out as the most important, or how would you prioritize the things that we've talked about here today? Open ended question, get them talking. You don't want to say, have you found today's meeting helpful? That's not doing the job. You need to get them to talk it out, speak it out. There's neuroscience that shows the value of that. It could be the decision to move forward. You've made an important decision. I think we're going to do some great work together. And I'm just curious. I know you had a lot of things to consider. What tipped the scales? What made you decide to move forward? Or it could be, 3 months, 6 months into the relationship. You could say, we've been working together for a while. I'd like to talk a little bit about our communication, what's working, anything not working. Can we talk about?
Mhm,
So we're, again, talking about the value. So just, gosh, if you just get in the habit of that, checking in more often,
mhm,
I've seen it all the time. You'll get more unsolicited referrals, not every time, but every now and then it'll trigger someone to think about you. You'll be feeling better about your value. You'll hear how people resonate with your value. So when you ask them and they'll share with you, you'll learn from that, and that builds your confidence. So that's kind of step one. Second step would be to promote referrals or introductions. And you heard me do that a little bit earlier. So it could be, glad you see the value. Just so you know, I'm never too busy to see if I can be a resource for other people you care about. You can use that little formula you share with me earlier, right? If you know anybody who is and they want to do this, right? Then, I'll be happy to talk with them, make sure they're covering all their bases. So don't keep me a secret. Lots of different ways to promote. So that's kind of the next step. You're being proactive, but you're not really asking.
mhm,
So there's not much pressure on you. And then the third step would be to start asking. And that would be to be a specific. So if I knew about some people in your life, business, personal, depends on the business model, I might ask about, hey, I know your sister and brother-in-law are in the area. Assuming we come up with an approach that feels comfortable, hey, would you consider introducing me to them? Or, until you came to me because you were experiencing this issue with your business, gosh, can we talk a little bit about other folks, colleagues that may be experiencing a similar issue and should at least have a conversation with me? No pressure to do business, but we should probably talk, right?
mhm,
So narrowing the focus. So that's what there is. So that value discussion, step one. Step two is to promote, not really asking yet. Step three is a more specific ask.
hmm. By the way, we don't have much data on this, but here's what we are doing once. The moment we onboard a client, when we make a sell, we just ask them for referrals. So is that a good time? What do you think?
It can be, yeah. And what I would teach is to do that value discussion. Say, like, thank you for coming on board. Thank you for deciding to work with us. I think you made a smart decision, and we'll do good work for you. I know this. You could say, I know this wasn't an easy decision, or I know you were considering a few factors. I'm curious. What made you decide to move forward? What did I say? What did you think about? What triggered the next step? And so they're going to talk about their decision to work with you. Now that's a good question because it reinforces their decision, which is not a bad thing. And you learn, how people process what you do in your sales process. And that's good to learn too. But they're acknowledging the value. So when someone makes a buying decision, value has been delivered and value has been recognized clearly, or they wouldn't be
Mhm.
doing that. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
it can be a great time to ask for possible introductions.
Okay.
But make sure you have that value discussion first. Make sure you make it about that value, about spreading the value. I mean, I'm glad you see the value. We believe in it. You see that. And we're always looking for more business owners like yourself who want to solve this problem or want to accomplish this with their business. And can we talk a little bit about other folks that maybe you should at least know about us, right? So it's about bringing the value to others. That's an important distinction, and making it about the value that they've just expressed. Having them speak the value out loud, very important part of this process. because they get more in touch with it. You feel more confident, and you're not doing it to set them up. You're not saying, "Great, I'm glad to see value. Who do you know?" It's you want to make sure they see the value to see, have I earned the right to the next conversation. Right now that I know you're seeing value, I would love to explore others that we can bring this value to as well.
Okay. By the way, like you recently spoke on TED Talk.
Yes, just last week I did a TED Talk. And I did it. It's kind of based on the Hidden Heist, my new book, The Hidden Heist. It's the TED Talk. If I can, hope I can remember the title. How to break free of financial anxiety and create financial freedom. Once the video gets edited, we have to decide on the final title. But it's essentially about financial worry, it's financial anxiety. And one thing I've learned in being in financial services for 34 years, when it comes to money, I've met very few people who don't have some sort of worry, anxiety, mistaken thinking, shame around money I see sometimes. So that's the hidden heist, right? That's that thinking. And so that my talk was about that. We also talked about the power of compound interest, saving a little bit of money every month, getting it well saved, well invested, and letting the market take over. Albert Einstein calls compounding interest the eighth wonder of the world. Whoever understands it earns it, whoever doesn't pays it. And so I had some great examples. You'll see behind me, there's a briefcase that has $1 million in it. And so I used that briefcase on stage at the TED Talk to model, who would like $1 million now, or who would like the money compounded over time, and all of that. So it was a fun time. It was only 12 minutes. It was a challenge, and that YouTube video will be released by TEDx or the TED folks probably in a month or two. We're not exactly sure when, but keep an eye out for it.
Yeah, of course. So what do you think? You know what? I've seen many business owners. I really think they can make a lot of money. Okay,
Mhm.
but I think they have some kind of psychological barrier that is stopping them from making more money. So, like,
Yes.
what do you think?
It happens all the time for lots of reasons. I kind of address that in my TED Talk. I address it in my book, Hit the Hidden Heist, a little bit. Sometimes it's beliefs around money, and for example, I've done over 100 money story interviews. I've interviewed people about their relationship to money.
Uh-huh.
I always start out with, what are some of the early messages you got from your parents and from other people? And so one gentleman, Michael, I interviewed, his parents resented people with a lot of money. And so he kind of grew up with that resentment towards people with a lot of money. And so you can't become something you resent. And so he had to work on himself and realize that, are all people with money, are all wealthy people greedy and cheats and liars? And no, some are, most aren't. Most of the ones we learn about because they're in the news did something
Yeah,
wrong.
yeah,
But as you know, there's a lot of very successful, very generous, very ethical business owners out there.
yeah.
So, so one thing is to learn what messages you get from your parents. So for my parents, I'll give you an example. My parents grew up in the Great Depression. They didn't see money as something to grow. They saw money as something to guard. So they saved and protected, but they didn't think about growth. They saw that as a risk, and so
Yeah.
they didn't invest very well. And so they didn't their money didn't work for them. So that's a belief that now for business owners, so sometimes there's a belief that there's a fear of success. I've seen people have a fear of success. I've seen people feel they're not worthy. It's deep inner work that needs to get done sometimes. That they're afraid to charge for their value. I interviewed a gal for my podcast, Tammy Lally, who she also did a TED Talk, and her TED Talk was on shame around money. Now, I didn't realize that a lot of people have shame around money, but her TED Talk has 2.3 million views. So clearly, money shame is a thing,
Yeah.
and that's what she helps. She helps her clients with that. So I actually referred a friend of mine to her, and they did a lot of work, interpersonal work. And so my friend was afraid to charge what she was worth. She was afraid to go after larger contracts. There was this inner block of not feeling worthy. We're getting into therapy almost here. Sometimes, so here's the principle behind all of this, and this is why I wrote the book. When we experience a challenge in our life, it could be business, it could be in our home, friends, anywhere. and we're having a little trouble. We can't seem to figure out what the answer. We can't get to that next level of success. Again, with a relationship, with business, we have to take a step back and we have to look at our beliefs. What do we believe about ourselves, about our product, about our service, about the other people, about the economy, about whatever? What do we believe that might be holding us back, that might not allow us to see the solutions that are right in front of us? People may even be suggesting the right solution for us, showing us the path, but we have a belief that we can't do that or that's not right for us. And so that's what holds so many small business owners back is that mistaken thinking. And there's an old expression, you can't see the picture when you're in the frame. And that's the value of people like you and people like me and some of the people listening and the work that we do is we help people question their thinking and we help people look at their business or their life in a different perspective. And then they go, "Oh, I didn't realize I could do it that way." Right? And that change
Mhm.
of awareness is everything. That change, that belief and change that awareness, then they break through those barriers.
You know what? I think many times after figuring out, like after being aware, we have to remind ourselves for the same thing. Otherwise, we get back to our old behavior,
Yes.
old beliefs.
Well, it's true. And see, so here's something I've learned about neuroscience. I am not a neuroscientist, but I've looked into it and I've interviewed a few for my podcast and the work I do. All right. So we know that the brain is wired, right? There's neurowiring on our brain.
Uh-huh.
And that wiring can never be changed. We cannot change the wiring in our brain. So when people say change how your brain is wired, that's not possible. But we can create new wiring. We can overwrite that wiring. The old doesn't go away, but we can start to create new wiring. And that's why it's often difficult to adopt a new habit or to get rid of bad habits because that wiring is still there. And so we've got to get the new wiring solidified. And that comes through new ways of thinking and believing and behaving over a period of time. It takes usually 90 days or more for new thinking, new behaving, new wiring to start to get written in the brain. There's an old myth out there that says somebody wrote in the book somewhere that takes 20 days to change a habit. Well, maybe a little habit of putting your trash can here to there. Okay. But for the big stuff,
Yep.
it takes a long time. So affirmations, self-reflection. I'm in a couple of mastermind groups. I'm in groups with other people who can sometimes see me better than I can see myself, and that helps create the new wiring.
By the way, when we talk about wiring, it all happens because of repetition, right?
Because of
Repetition.
repetition.
Yeah.
Repetition. Yes. Yes,
Yes.
absolutely. It's repetition
So,
of thoughts, beliefs, actions. Yes.
so if we do the repetition, suppose a thought, okay? Okay, suppose the repetition we are doing in 90 days. If we do that in 30 days, that will also going to work, right? Right? Rewire our brain.
Yeah, and I don't know the exact answer. In other words, if you repeat something more often, does it make the 90 days shorter to 30? I don't really know. But the repetition is important. And also, whenever we think of new thoughts, sometimes it's called affirmations, we always have to do it in the positive and the present, meaning it isn't I'm no longer fat. It's right. It's because the
Yeah.
brain doesn't the brain hears I'm fat. That's what the brain hears.
Yes.
So it's not the negative, and it's not I someday I will be rich. Is I am living a rich life. I am
Yep.
living a wealthy life. The brain knows the present, so it's got to be in the present. Now there
Yes.
may be a part of you that kind of doubts that a little bit. I'm living a wealthy life. Well, no, you're not. Well, just keep doing it. Keep working
Yeah.
on it.
Yeah.
Keep, doing your gratitude. Keep looking for the places of abundance and wealth in your life as it starts to show up. And then that person that inside you that's saying no, start to quiet that voice. I like it to a radio, the no on the radio. Turn the volume down, right? Whenever you hear the no. and just focus on the positive. And over time, and by the way, writing this by hand, there's a lot of evidence that shows when you write these things out by hand,
Uh-huh.
it impacts the brain and the learning and the memory and the brain hemispheres working together. So for instance, when I was trying to memorize my TED talk, I wrote my talk out by hand several times. Very tedious, very difficult, but it helped me memorize because something about the hand, writing the words, seeing the words, coordinated with the brain and made it easier to remember.
Okay, while doing that, should we also speak?
Yeah,
Like while
speak it out.
writing?
Yep, write it, speak it. Yep, both very important.
'Cause so when you're practicing, like, you're also speaking, right? Or you're just writing and focusing?
Well, well, when I was writing, sometimes I would actually be speaking it as I wrote. Sometimes I was
Mhm.
actually, you're right. Sometimes I would be verbalizing it, which is actually a good thing because the neuroscience I saw, I was trying to, this value discussion I talked about earlier, right? Getting people to speak out your value. There's evidence that when we speak it out, the brain kind of hears that, right, and starts to
Mm,
create the new neural pathways. But it has to be spoken out. It has to be oral. It can't just be thought. It has to be spoken. So you're right. There's power in actually speaking it verbally out to
mhm.
yourself, to your bedroom, to your shower, whatever, to the treadmill. Yeah, there's a lot of value in that. So what I do most of the time was I would say my TED talk and then write it at the same time. So I'm speaking and writing at the same time, and it creates a little extra power. But you're right, repetition is very important, and not giving up, and to do this over a period of time,
Okay.
and then have people around you that will support you in this and will help you see the things that you need to be grateful for, and see the opportunities that sometimes you miss. Having one or two, I call them mastermind groups, uh, of people, to because anything worth doing, is hard to do on your own. Usually, you need other people. You need support of other people. And so, anyway,
Okay, yeah. By the way, for our listeners who want to get your book, where can they go?
yeah. So the Hidden Heist, just go to thehiddenheist.com, and there's a quick 1 minute fun little video book trailer. You can also listen to chapter one. We have a professional book actor doing the book because it's a story. There's a lot of characters, so it really comes to life. So thehiddenheist.com. My other book I mentioned, Radical Relevance. Just go to radicalrelevance.com and you can learn about that book. And then just look me on LinkedIn. Bill Cates, not Bill Gates, Bill Cates. I'll show up on LinkedIn and connect, and we'll have a conversation.
And by the way, you also do consultancy, right?
Yes, I do coaching, consulting, speaking, training. I have video training. Lots of different ways I serve my clients.
Okay, and for those, if someone want to connect with you, they can contact in LinkedIn, I
Yeah,
guess.
LinkedIn or referralcoach.com. That website for that is referralcoach.com.
Okay, awesome. So, is there anything else that you would like to share?
Well, real quick reminder, that free guide I have too, which is The Ordinary Millionaire, theordinarymillionaire.com. So, yeah, if I can just finish with a couple of things. First of all, when it comes to the referral thing, believe that your value is worth sharing, right? You have to believe it. And then as you see your clients or customers believing it, then the whole referral thing gets easier. And then learn how money works, dig into how money works so you can make it work hard for you, and become a little more aware of your money story, where it may or may not be serving you.
Mhm.
And I believe the Hidden Heist, that's one place to start that process, to learn about your own story and to learn how money works. And then you can continue on after that. There's a lot of great books and other people out there that can help you with beyond myself. Yeah, learn how it works and learn about yourself, and you'll make, better decisions.
Great, Bill Gates. Thank you so much for spending some time with us and sharing your wisdom.
Thank you, Atul. It's been my pleasure. Thank you.